Salut! Today I'm taking apart my Sabaj PHA1 headphone amplifier. But first I'm just gonna give a quick overview of the outside. So you've got the power button, the 1/4-inch headphone jack, 3.5mm jack, the volume knob. The volume knob is in aluminum, as is all the case and the back. And in the back you've got the 5V micro USB input and an RCA input and RCA output. I've never used it, but I guess it's just a pass-through for the input. And also another interesting thing is the power LED is blue, which normally I hate because it lights up the whole room because it's too loud. But this time it's not too bad. So if I just plug the 5V and I light it up, so you can see it's quite small and not too bright. So it's blue, but it's okay. And I'm really curious to see the inside because the 1/4-inch and the 3.5mm jacks don't work the same. So if you look on the box that came with it, they say that the 3.5mm is for low impedance headphone jack, and the D, the high impedance headphone jack. So I guess they suppose that 3.5mm headphones have lower impedance. So if you saw in my previous video, the the amplifier is quite strong with low impedance. So I guess they did something very inexpensive to reduce the amplitude of the sound coming through the smaller jack, but it also makes the sound garbage. So if you want to use it, I recommend you to really use only the 1/4-inch jack, not the 3.5mm. And I'm really curious to see how they implemented the lowering of the power. I think it's just a cheap way, like a series resistance or something. So let's dig in. It's just need to remove the volume knob. Then there are 2 torque screws at the front and 2 torque screws here and here. So I'll be back with it all opened up. We see a good job, a good layout. The soldering seems good, and at first view everything was normal. Then I saw one budge wire over here, and I found it strange. But then looking at it, it's not actually a signal wire, but it's a wire that goes around the volume pot. So if I zoom in, or just focus, you see the wire just goes around and connects to nothing. So I guess this is just to make a good contact with the faceplate to ground it. And then if we take a look at the faceplate, we see that they actually sended where the potentiometer goes. So that now I'm pretty sure this is just to make sure there's a good electrical contact to ground with the faceplate. So not the most elegant solution, but it seems to work. Otherwise, everything seems fine. Over here you have the power circuit. If we power it, we can check the voltage generated over here. Come on. So we've got minus 14 volts and, well, minus 15 and 15 volts. Now the signal, so that's the power circuit, and the signal is here. If we take a look at the main amplifier, so if we zoom in, we see that those two amplifiers are JRC 4556AD. I found the spec sheet online, and we see that it's a dual high current operation amplifier. So what's strange is that they use two op amps for that each contain two. Well, they use two chips that each contains two op amps, but they only use one per chip. So they could just have removed all this signal path and keep and double the stereo signal all on one way, but they did it with two. I don't know why. Should cost more. Maybe they got a bunch of cheap JRC 4556. I don't know. Of course, the layout is easier with two separate channels, but that's the way it is. Then we've got these two chips. Unfortunately, there's no marking on it, but looking at the traces, we see that they go all the way to the volume pot. So this is probably just to buffer the volume control. So the signal comes here, is sent to these, let's call them preamp or just buffer amps, and the volume is controlled with the pot. Then the signal is pushed to the GRCs, which power the headphones. So the power amps and then just the volume buffer amps. Now let's take a look at those jacks. As I was saying, that's the main jack, that sounds good, and then that's the 3.5mm jack that sounds like garbage. And just here we have two resistors, one for each channel. And let's measure their resistance. So the first one, come on. Okay, doesn't want to. $150 ohms for the one channel, and should be the same for the other. Yeah, so just as I thought, the manufacturer simply added series resistor for the 3.5mm jack. So what this does is it increased the total impedance as seen from the power amplifier, but then the circuit wasn't designed for that, and it just sounds garbage. So it would have been better if they actually, and since they have so much chips, they could have just have two separate controls and with proper impedance and gain for each output. Really, it's a gimmick. Might be useful, but forget it. Don't use them. And also I checked, and that's just a pass-through for the input and the output. So overall, it's well made, and it works well. Just don't use the 3.5mm. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it, and see you later.